Listen, probably the biggest gripe that people have with long-acting testosterone esters like testosterone propionate, or the commonly prescribed testosterone, is that it takes fucking 8 weeks to dial in. And if you make a change at 8 weeks, well, then you gotta wait another 6 to 8 weeks to really ultimately dial in again. And that whole process might take you 6 months. It might take you longer than that. I'm happy over the last year and a half that since I've been talking about this, a lot of people have switched from testosterone propionate to testosterone propionate and are having a much better time. And look, there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, prop is easier to dial in. I mean, you can dial in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whereas you might have to wait 3 iterations of 8 weeks to dial in on testosterone propionate. Test prop tends to come with less side effects for people. I've got a bunch of theories on why that happens. You know, number one, it's not sticking around enough. You do actually have a trough. Number two, the peak of testosterone is much higher than on propionate or enanthate. And so look, if you typically have estrogenic side effects, you're likely to have the androgens, the high level of androgens, offset that on testosterone propionate, so you can actually end up tolerating more testosterone, which may be what you need, and not have side effects. Testosterone propionate, for the peak of testosterone, the total testosterone peak that you're going to get, aromatizes less. All right, I'm just going to confidently say that you're going to get less aromatization with testosterone propionate versus testosterone propionate. It peaks a lot quicker. So day of injection, man, day of injection, you're going to notice that peak. You're going to notice the dopaminergic input. You'll feel a lot more motivated and happy. Your mood's probably going to be better. Generally speaking, everything is better because it peaks faster. Tends to improve libido and erections for guys on TRT over propionate. And the interesting thing about it is that the more stepwise you increase your dose, the better all of that gets. Whereas people move very quickly out of their zone when they're dosing propionate as they raise the dose. And then lastly, it can revive people's TRT protocols when they're ready to quit. And I know, like, they've got to try some other esters, right? They try prop and suddenly they're dialed in, and now they get the benefits of TRT, and they definitely don't want to quit at that point. Because when you feel fucking awesome and everything works great, yeah, you're going to want to stay on TRT. All right, and so much more. Let's talk about dialing in. How to dial in a testosterone propionate protocol. This is going to come from an aggregate of a bunch of client data as well as my personal experience that I'm going to give you over a year plus using testosterone propionate. Let's talk about dialing it in. Cortex Labs is a performance optimization and hormone consulting company for men. We got a wide array of products ranging from nootropic stacks to coaching. Right now, the specials are the Torque stack is still buy one, get one free. The code for that is torquebogo. The code is in the description of this video. I mean, look, if you want an Adderall-like effect, but which doesn't come with the side effects and is sustainable to take, buy Torque. You're going to love the stack. And again, right now, it is buy one, get one free. Coaching, if you need to hire me for TRT protocol redesign, for sexual optimization, libido optimization, sexual dysfunction, erectile optimization, dopamine restoration, host of other topics, you can do so in under a minute at livecortex.com. I've got singular calls and I've got one-on-one bigger packages where you're working directly with me for full protocol design to really get to the bottom of your biggest issues. And you can hire me in under a minute at livecortex.com. So again, the test prop is just the superior ester for a lot of people. Can't say it's the superior ester for everybody, for those of you that want to make my statements into blanket statements. But for a good degree of people, it's just going to reign supreme, and people are going to feel better. They're going to have better libido, better erections. They'll have less or no side effects. It takes a lot shorter of a time to dial in. Peaks quicker. You know, maybe it's like maybe you need to be peaking at 2,000 nanograms per deciliter in order for you to get all of the benefits that testosterone has to give. And with prop, I mean, you can do that with relatively low doses. So let's talk about dialing in. I think the major question is, where do you start? What dose should you start with if you're switching from propionate to propionate? And over various attempts to have people start at various doses, as well as looking at bloods, where the bloods go at various doses, I've come to an even 20 milligrams every day as the best dose to start with on testosterone propionate. Okay, so if you're starting prop, start with 20 milligrams a day. What I would suggest you do is at the very least inject that shallow intramuscularly. You're better off, even if you're lean, getting a 5/8 inch needle, which you can get on Amazon, and then pinning in the delts or the ventroglutes. You can actually pin in the actual glutes because a 5/8 will hit your glutes. Most people it will. I just think, you know, for the best effects with testosterone propionate and to avoid post-injection pain, which you're going to get to a large degree if you do sub-Q, you want to stay away from sub-Q and you want to inject at least shallow intramuscular. Now we'll move into protocols, and if you inject every other day, then I think you should just inject full intramuscular because that's tolerable. All right, so 20 milligrams a day, again, at the very least shallow intramuscularly. in the delts or the ventral glute. That's where you should start. I know here's what's so awesome about testosterone propionate versus testosterone cypionate. You really only need to give your 20 milligram a day injection 7 days to see if you like it. Okay, that's all you really got to give. I mean, probably you could feel how you're going to feel in 4 to 5 days, but you want to give it the whole 7 days because things can change. You know, receptors upregulate. Your DHT may accumulate over that time, which, you know, you're not going to really know at day 3 what that endpoint number is going to be. A lot of guys will start on testosterone propionate at 20 milligrams a day, and within a week, they're going to fucking feel great. They're going to feel great on day 1, actually, because of that peak. But, you know, after 7 days or so, like everything's going to be great. Libido, erections, energy, stamina, confidence, all the things that TRT brings, anabolism, all that stuff's going to be pretty straight. So some guys are just going to stay there at 20 milligrams a day, which is 140 milligrams a week. That's a pretty good TRT dose, and then right off into the sunset. But if you're not satisfied with that dose, if you know, erections aren't great or libido isn't great or something isn't great, it's usually in the direction of needing to increase the dose. Then instead of going to like 25 or 22 or 24, some arbitrary number, I would just bump the dose up to 30 milligrams a day. Okay. So if you don't do good on 20 milligrams a day, bump the dose up to 30 milligrams a day. In any situation, whether you think you're having estrogenic side effects or not, that's probably going to balance out, and it may not be. But also, again, higher levels of androgens tend to offset the effect of estradiol via DHT being antagonistic to estrogen at the receptor, at the genetic expression level of things, as well as, again, just having higher levels of androgens tends to kind of offset that effect of estradiol. So if 20 doesn't work, go to 30 milligrams a day. All right, same shallow intramuscular injection. Okay, if you can get your hands on some Lure Lock 5/8 inch needles, that's going to be best. Ideally, for injecting air, for drawing rather, any testosterone, you want to draw with like a 2 milliliter or 3 milliliter syringe, a low gauge, pretty big needle, so that you can get the oil and the testosterone into the syringe a lot quicker. Sitting there with an insulin syringe trying to fucking pin, you know, high amounts of any of these esters is ridiculous. You got to warm it up. It takes forever. I just do not use insulin syringes anymore at this point. Now, 30 milligrams a day, okay, is 210 milligrams a week of testosterone. That's a pretty good TRT dose. That's going to do a lot of people really, really well. Okay, so you want to give it that 7 days, maybe even give it 10 days, maybe give it 14 days. Like, because again, at the receptor level, at the genetic expression level, when after androgens bind to the receptor, at the tissue level, there may be things that need to change, especially if you're dealing with long-standing hypogonadism or long-standing sexual dysfunction for being on a longer ester. Like, you might need some time for the cumulative DHT effect, which will continue going upward, to kind of let you know exactly where you are in terms of all the feels and all the functions. But if 30 milligrams a day and you've given it enough time, it is pretty good, but it doesn't quite cut it. Like, you're maybe thinking, hey, maybe I can up the dose a little more. I wouldn't increase the total dose per week at this point, because then you'd be pushing 250, 270, 280, and that's okay. You might need that as well. Again, prop is different. You'll have likely less hematocrit on prop compared to cypionate because it doesn't stick around as long. It's a very different dynamic. But if 30 milligrams a day isn't cutting it, what I would suggest you do is just change your frequency to every other day and keep all of the dosing in terms of weekly dosing at 210, in this case the same, and just do 60 milligrams every other day. 60 milligrams every other day. The reason that I wouldn't go back in dose and do like 40 milligrams every other day, because that seems to be the cutoff because of how fast prop leaves your system. I mean, it's a 19-hour half-life, all things considered. People are going to metabolize that a little differently, but have that as the, you know, as the general kind of benchmark. At 40 milligrams every other day, you know, usually people report on day 2 feeling a little tired, a little lackluster. They're just feeling kind of not energized and not motivated. That's because that testosterone is just leaving your system. Those of you on TRT long enough know that if you switch esters, or if, say you take a break for some reason, when you're going down in testosterone, when that testosterone level is dropping, you feel like shit and you just don't feel good. So I really wouldn't go for 40 milligrams a day or every other day. I really wouldn't shoot for 50 milligrams every other day. Some people may be able to make that work. I would jump right to 60 milligrams every other day if 30 milligrams a day isn't cutting it, or if it's fine, but you think you want to go up a little more and just sort of see how you'll respond to more testosterone at a time. I mean, 60 milligrams a day peak is going to be substantially higher in terms of nanograms per deciliter of total testosterone and thus conversion to DHT than 30 milligrams every day. Yeah, that's double the amount at once. Again, the reason that people have problems on microdosing longer esters is because they're not getting enough testosterone at once, and the body just gets used to that. They're steady state all the time. They don't peak at all. And for some people, the peaks are where it's all at. All right. So 60 milligrams every other day is what I would jump to if 30 milligrams a day isn't cutting it. Again, give that 7 to 10 days. See how you fare and decide what to do from there. I think at this point, right, if you've gone through all of these other adjustments, you started at 20, you went up to 30, and now you're at 60 milligrams every other day of testosterone propionate, this would be an opportune time to go and run labs. Total testosterone, sure, just so that you can see ultimately where it's going, but estradiol specifically, for those of you low estrogen folks where you need to be low estrogen in order for sexual function to work adequately, then yeah, you're going to want to look at estrogen. Prop still does aromatize, albeit not as much as cypionate, but it may be over your threshold. If you understand you've got a threshold of 35 or 40 picograms per milliliter, run the labs on estradiol sensitive, see where you are, and then decide from there. Do I want to bring in Primobolan to lower some estrogen? Do I want to bring in Proviron to lower the estrogen? Or am I going to take a full-fledged AI like a Arimidex or a Romacin to lower estrogen? But alternatively, you could also get bloods, see that estrogen is elevated past your normal range, but recognize also, hopefully looking at your testosterone numbers, that your testosterone numbers are also sky high, which offsets a lot of that effect via extra DHT, which is antagonistic to estradiol. You're going to find anecdotally a lot of people out there that take prop that have high estrogen levels they could not tolerate on testosterone cypionate or testosterone anything, that somehow magically they're able to fucking tolerate on testosterone propionate. Why is that, right? Well, number one, you get a trough. But number two, you have higher levels of androgens, which almost always offsets that negative effect of estradiol, especially as it relates to sexual function. So you might not want to mess with estrogen at all. You might want to just give that more time, or you could move on to the next adjustment strategy, which would be to move to 70 milligrams every other day. Okay, now you want to move up in 10 milligram increments. You don't want to just shoot to 80 milligrams every other day, because now you're pushing, 280 milligrams a week. That may make people feel uncomfortable. I think that is a perfect dose. If it's TRT for you, it's TRT. 280 a week is not a fucking cycle. Believe me, I'm on 700 total androgens a week. I'm on a cycle. Okay. There's a guy that I'm working with that's on 500 milligrams of testosterone a week. He's on kind of a low level steroid cycle. 280 a week is not a steroid cycle. Neither is 300. And for some people, if they're getting full symptom resolution, but they require 350 to get full symptom resolution, and they're not doing it for anabolism, that's TRT for them, guys. All right, so moving up to 70 milligrams every other day. Now, this is going to peak you pretty substantially in the bloods. Your total testosterone and your DHT is going to go pretty sky high. That may be what you need, right, on testosterone propionate. You're also going to find that basically 35 a day or 70 every other day, which is something that would be hard for you to tolerate on testosterone cypionate, that you'll be able to easily tolerate 70 milligrams every other day of testosterone propionate. I see this all the fucking time. People will second guess my instruction. Are you sure we want to move to 70 milligrams every other day? And I'm like, yep, I'm sure. Just wait and see. You're probably going to feel amazing. Things are going to function good, and you won't have side effects. At 70 milligrams every other day, again, I'd run this for 7 to 10 days. Run it for 7 to 10 days and see how you fare. Maybe run it for 14 days. Again, you got to remember the cumulative effect at the tissue level of dihydrotestosterone accumulating over time. That might take time, for you to actually reach that number, because it doesn't happen right away. And even if you get a steady level of dihydrotestosterone, that doesn't really move a whole lot, or you peak at the same number. Well, at the tissue level, the changes that makes may also take time. This is really the only thing that makes dialing in on propionate. It's like it still does take a little long, not nearly as long as cypionate though, but still long enough, because you might need to see at the tissue level what's really happening, and that does take some time. All right, if it's 70 milligrams every other day, you're awesome and you fucking found your spot. Move on right off into the sunset. Don't have any qualms about the fact that it's 70 every other day. You're basically running 245 milligrams of testosterone a week. That's a great dose. Listen, the average person that does well on TRT, is starting at 200 milligrams a week, and they do that for a reason. I don't knock on clinics for doing that at this stage in my understanding of all this. I think it's actually a good idea. Now, might it take time for some people to get used to some of the side effects or how they have to change their protocol or whatever on 200 or 200 plus a week? Usually yes, and that happens usually on longer esters. That's why, again, for some people I'm going to frown upon using them and suggest you use testosterone propionate. But 245 a week is a fucking awesome TRT dose. Believe me, I'm sitting at 700 milligrams again in total androgens per week. And, that's a cycle for sure. But I look now at 245 and I recognize that's TRT. I have many clients that have to run upwards of 250, 300, 350 testosterone per week. It's TRT for them. Okay. They're not pushing cycle territory until you get to 400, 500, whatever. And even then, so that's kind of low to mid-level cycle territory. If you absolutely have to, because you feel like you're close to being dialed in, you're close, but it could be a little bit better, go to 80 milligrams every other day. I'd be moving it in small increments at this point, 10 milligram increments, per every other day in this instance, to 80 milligrams every other day. Now, that might be your ultimate sweet spot. You're going to be peaking at 2,500, maybe 2,700 nanograms per deciliter, possibly even 3,000 for some people, nanograms per deciliter total testosterone. That might be where you feel good. Okay, so stick with it. Don't let the numbers scare you. Believe me, it's perfectly safe to be running that level of testosterone so long as you've got health management in check. And it's a lot easier to manage hematocrit, as an example, on testosterone propionate versus other modalities of testosterone. 80 milligrams every other day, you might be perfect. Morning wood is fucking strong and diamond cutter, nocturnal erections, spontaneous boners throughout the day. Your libido is great and healthy. You want to have sex. Everything functions well, but you feel great. I mean, that testosterone propionate energy is really something else. Yeah, I can't match it with any other ester. Cream isn't even like that. Cream is maybe a little overbearing depending on where you put it. But 80 milligrams every other day of testosterone propionate, well, that's 280 a week. Okay, again, that's TRT if it resolves all your symptoms and causes you to feel great and your sexual function is great. That's just TRT. Now, at the 80 milligram every other day mark, whether or not you need to go up, I guess at that point you would have to judiciously make a decision. You'd have to look at that a little more under a microscope, look at your bloods and decide, okay, do I want to move up to 320 or 330 or 350 a week? You're pushing high levels of testosterone there for sure. So, then you've got to decide. The people that I've seen need upwards of 80 milligrams every other day, 90 or 100 milligrams every other day, so basically 50 milligrams a day. Those people have been hypogonadal for a while, or they've had long-standing sexual dysfunction on a longer ester like testosterone propionate, like they haven't had morning wood in a year and a half, and they can have sex, but they can barely have sex and they have a hard time orgasming or whatever the problem is. It's just sexual dysfunction. Those people might need to be pushing 100 milligrams of testosterone propionate every other day to get things back. So that's really the progression, okay? You want to start at 20 milligrams a day, ideally do that shallow intramuscular. I do believe you want to get prop in the muscle, if for no other reason than to avoid post-injection pain, which you're going to get a lot more of if you inject prop sub-Q. Again, you want to give these changes 7 to 10 days to see what outcomes manifest. How is libido? How are erections? How do you feel? I think on most of these doses, you're going to physically feel very good. You're going to have energy. You'll feel that dopamine-like energy. You'll feel on top of your game. Be hard pressed to find you having to take a nap or feeling sluggish throughout the day. I mean, test prop is like energy god when it comes to TRT. But yeah, look, I mean, again, some people just haven't been able to get adequate libido and erections on testosterone propionate because they can't peak high enough. As I've noticed in client work that some people just need to peak a lot higher, right? They just need to peak a lot higher in testosterone. That's ultimately what they need. You've been starved of androgens for a while. You've been sitting at 400 or 500. Your body really needs those higher levels of testosterone. So again, move to 30 milligrams a day at that point. Give it 7 to 10 days. If you're not satisfied, move to 60 milligrams every other day. Okay, you get more of a bolus at once. The androgen levels go higher. They're likely going to offset any effects from estradiol. You're probably not going to have side effects and everything's going to function fucking well. But if it doesn't, you can move up to 70 milligrams every other day and then up to 80 milligrams every other day. After which you should probably just sit down and really run some labs before you move up, see where estradiol is, see where hematocrit, lipids, monitor your blood pressure, see where all those things are before you decide, okay, maybe we're going to move to 300 milligrams a week or 310 or 350 or something like that. I can't give you the amount of people, like the number that I've converted from testosterone cypionate to testosterone propionate, because it would be in the several hundreds at this point, right? Because there's commenters, not people that I'm working with. I've got a bunch of clients, right? I can give you that number, but people on YouTube and people elsewhere where I've talked about this and are commenting, I've switched to prop and having a fucking much better time. It's so many people. So I actually don't know, but a good degree of those folks, if you scour the comment sections of all my videos on prop, you're going to see mostly positive experiences. Switch from cypionate to prop, having a lot better time. Switch from enanthate to prop, having a lot better of a time. You're going to see people that switch from cream to testosterone propionate. They're having a lot better of a time. Again, for me, it just so happened that like a biohacker was, running testosterone cypionate. And though I could get results on the libido and erection side, I was never truly able to feel fucking as awesome as I do on testosterone propionate when I was running testosterone cypionate. So I brought it in. I started experimenting. I recognize there's a lot you can do with it. I recognize there's a lot less side effects. And the stuff that was happening to me is extrapolating and happening to most other guys that take testosterone propionate. I'm the guy that popularized that ester, and now clinics are moving it a lot more. Like their data shows more sales of testosterone propionate, and it's because of yours truly. We now have some clinics over in the UK, like Mike from Balance My Hormones clinic, who is, selling prop now, and their clients are having good experiences on prop. Again, the move from the move from short acting esters, which was mainstay before the 1960s, and it was testosterone propionate. That was the ester that they were giving people, to testosterone cypionate and testosterone enanthate. Yeah, it's good for convenience, and it works for some people. If you're dialed in on any of the long esters, don't take prop. You're dialed in. It's like prop is the ester that people move to when they're not having a good time on other esters. Again, I've scored esters on scales of 1 to 10, and prop is up there, 9 out of 10. Like I really have a hard time finding a problem with it. Even cream, you can find issues with it, increasing DHT too much, maybe causing some hair loss, transfer to other people. And cream is fucking great, but there's negatives to everything. It's hard to find negatives with prop, in my opinion. All right, boys, if you need to dial in your protocol and you're just not sure what to do or what ester to switch to or how to exactly do it, to how to figure out whether or not you need to be low estrogen, high estrogen, I've made all these distinctions over years consulting men on TRT. I've got a TRT specific TRT protocol design consult, which is a call with me, and then I'll devise, design, and create your new protocol, put it on an online document, and have you right off into the sunset. You can get that. If you need to work on with me more ongoingly, this is where we get a lot of good work done, not just with testosterone, but libido in general, erectile function in general. Maybe you need hardcore stuff. Maybe you need some intervention with dihydrotestosterone. You need actual standalone to cure your ED or cure your libido issues. Dopamine restoration, nootropic protocol design, full-on hormone optimization, host of other topics in the bigger one-on-one packages where you're working directly with me. Guys, I've got slots open. It's my favorite work to do. We change a lot of guys' lives. If you've got the budget, you can hire me in under a minute at livecortex.com. And because we are prepping for an entire new big batch, one of the biggest batches we've ever gotten, because this stuff is flying off the shelves, of the Torque Nootropic Stack. Right now, my loss is your gain. So we're trying to move bottles so we can get rid of this inventory. We're doing it at buy one, get one free. The code for that is torquebogo. You enter it at checkout. The code is down in the description of this video as well as the link. It's like Adderall without the side effects, boys. That's the best way that I can explain it. It's a nootropic stack that I built myself. You're not going to want to run out of it. Believe me. All right, brother. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. Hope you had a great weekend, great Labor Day. Ready for the fall, boys. It's a new season. All right, let's approach it with a new attitude, with a new mindset. Let's go fucking kill it, all of us. Sub to the channel, like the video. It makes a huge difference to the algorithm. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really would mean the world to me if you would hit that like button. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. More content coming soon. And boys, I'll talk to you on the next one.